I know it's been a long day. How are we?
Hello.
Excellent. It's good to touch a responsive audience this time of day. Paul O'Connell is my name. Very quickly, I have my background is media and PR. I spent the last almost 3 years with Image Now Consultants, who are 30 years in the business of building brands. I was front of house for them. I also did social media strategy and workshops for thousands of clients to look at how their brand needs to be positioned. And currently I am working with Bernard, who runs the Founder Factory, which is positioned on Mount Street, but he will tell you about that.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Very briefly, a bit background about myself. I've been within the tech industry for over 10 years, had multiple startups, and now very much focused on disrupting the startup scene in Ireland, specifically around content creation and how we can help startups find their voice, but take that to the next level as well.
And then on top of that, in case anyone actually has clicked on my LinkedIn, I know it's confusing, I'm also the interim head of comms for the Arts Council. So I say yes to everything.
He says yes to too much.
I say yes to everything. So what we want to do today is we want to talk about the very simple difference to kick off between brand versus branding. Because everyone these days, all the hip kids talk about being on brand and what's on brand and this clothes are on brand and I'm on brand and that's off brand. Does anybody out there actually, oh, by the way, you can send in questions and we'll answer them in a bit on the app. Does anyone actually know the difference between brand and branding? You put your hand up. Come here to me. Come here. Talking to the microphone. The difference between brand and branding is?
Well, your brand is basically what you put out there in terms of the name and the look and the feel and the vibe of the business. And branding is how you portray yourself with that brand.
Fantastic.
She's not bad. Not bad. It's very simple. You're 50% right. 50%. Brand is reputation. That's it. It's ethereal. It's reputation. It's nothing else. Branding is everything else. So your brand is delivered through your customer service and your staff engagement. So the promise you make with the service or product that you provide to your clientele, to your investors, to whatever it is, that is your brand. The promise you make. Your branding is how all of your values, all of the things that you want to provide, all of your core purpose and reason, how that translates visually, either through color, through text, through video, through podcasts. That's your branding. It's a representation of you out in the world. And all great branding, without exclusion, is emotive. And anyone who says different, let me ask you this question. Has anyone ever gone to McDonald's because it was a logical idea?
I answer yes to that all the time.
Absolute lies.
Love McDonald's.
So, with that in mind then, let's explain what we do at the Founder Factory.
So, put very simply, at the Founder Factory, we focus on helping startups, founders themselves, small businesses, and medium and large-sized businesses find their voice. And we do that through helping them create really good content for their businesses. So we focus on podcasts, photography, videography, along with digital marketing services as well with branding. So, as Paul was saying, it's really important that when you're starting a business and when you have a startup, you're positioning yourself correctly from the get-go. So I'm going to tell you a very brief story about myself and my business partner, Robbie. We've been involved, like I said, in a couple of other startups. And throughout our journey, we've experienced a number of issues that I know a lot of founders out there is facing right now. And that is, you either don't have the time, you don't have the experience, or you don't have the money to create content at an effective scale and in an effective way. So we kind of said to ourselves, we were working in a tech company, I was focused on recruitment. We wanted to do 12 videos, so one video a month across the course of the year. So then we were quoted an insane amount of money for simple videos that we wanted to repurpose on TikTok, podcasts, etc. And then we said to ourselves, like, Jesus, if our investors had seen what we were quoted and what we were actually going to try and enable, we would have been out of runway and out of business in no time. So we said to ourselves, there has to be a better model for founders and for startups in Ireland to create content on a consistent basis, which is why we founded the Founder Factory, which focuses on a membership model, very much created with a hands-on approach to help founders, startups, and small businesses create the content that they need for their businesses at a really, really good, effective model.
The key thing there, Bernard said, is find your voice. Anybody here done a podcast yet? Anyone here thought about doing a podcast? Who? Come on, hands up. Who's thought about doing a podcast? I should do a podcast. How many of the hands... Oh, no, leave your hands up, mother lovers. How many of you, with your hands still raised, have done a podcast? No. Why? It's a kind of a pipe dream thing, isn't it? It's kind of like I want to just try one, see how I sound, see how I feel and everything else. What we do is we talk about the fact that you need a tone of voice and a consistency to build a narrative. Podcasts are powerful things. The tone of voice, a human voice, is fabulous. It has worked for generations. We are storytellers. We are impressionists. But the thing that we absolutely struggle with, especially with a podcast or any form of expression, is that we want to be perfect, don't we? I want to make sure that I say it right. I want to make sure that I say it perfectly. Myself and Bernard were talking before this, and he was like, what if I don't do it right? I'm like, they don't know.
They will know.
How much you've screwed up. Forgive yourself now. It's going to be fine. They didn't realize that you dropped a line from the play. It's okay. The imperfections is what makes us attractive. It's the things that other people, that we do that other people don't, that make us attractive in every walk and sense. So if you're doing a podcast, we are going to sit with you and we are going to make sure that you find your voice, not trying to be something you're not trying to present yourself in a way that you think that's how professionals talk, that's how, people who run tech companies talk, that's how a founder talks. How do you talk? How do you sound? If you're going to do a blog or a video blog, why are you doing it? Because it captures within social medias, it goes text first, and then photography really works well, and then your video is king. Video content works. That's why Reels have taken over Instagram. But it's a thing of, well, I don't know how I look and I don't know how I sound, and there's nothing more frightening than someone standing in front of you with a camera. And now I'm suddenly worrying, am I standing up straight and I wish I was fucking taller? Right. There's nothing scarier than a microphone and someone saying, just tell me about your business. And you're like, where do I start? We work with that. But we work with it over a process, like we have a membership thing. So we work with it in a sense that we go, right, let's tell your story over 12 podcasts. Let's get in other experts, other people, your investors, the rest of the gang. And let's create a narrative. Let's create a show that people can learn a little bit of something. We have 3 rules in the Founder Factory. Disrupt, engage, and educate. And if you think about any platform, if you think about any media, radio, TV, or even a TikTok, it disrupts you. It stops you in your tracks if it's good, doesn't it? Because we're all constantly scrolling, like some of you are doing right now while I'm talking, which is fine. Yeah, hi. Constantly scrolling. We are absolutely addicted to our phones. It's fine. So if we're doing that, the ones we stop on have disrupted us. If we get to the end of that TikTok or that video, we've been engaged. And if we come away learning something we didn't know 10 seconds ago or 30 seconds ago, then they've done their job. And that's what we want to make sure that any brand that wants to live across the different platforms and tell their story does properly. And we don't know if we can do that for you. We're not sure if you can do that for yourselves, but we'll certainly help you on the journey. But it's your voice, it's not ours. And Bernard's created a clubhouse, really, haven't you?
We have a fantastic clubhouse, and some of the startups that we're working with are really fantastic companies, but like you're saying, they just struggle to actually tell their story in a meaningful and authentic way that is going to resonate with either their users of their platform or their consumers of their products that they have. So, Paul, I'd love to bring it back to when we talk about the differences between and the nuances between brand and branding. If we can go through some examples of some well-known companies, but also from the startup space as well, as to how we help, I suppose, define that in a bit more detail.
The first thing we look at are your core values of your company. How many founders do I have here? I know none of you were expecting questions, by the way. I realize I've woken a few of you up, which is great. How many of you founders? Fabulous. Do you all know the core values of your company? There's not a lot of heads nodding. You do. Fabulous. What are they? Come here. You're all like terrified. Who's next? What are they?
Inclusivity, transparency, inclusion, and there's a fourth that I can't remember. So
with every tweet you put out, with every piece of social media you put out, are those values evident?
I hope so.
Hope so. Okay, great. Sorry, thank you so much. My favorite of all of these, when you're talking about core values and you're talking about branding, is Volvo. Does anyone know what Volvo's core value is? Safety, because you were at one of my talks before. Safety. You don't get any points, Robbie. So Robbie is the co-founder of Founder Factory. He's not actually a stool pigeon, right? Safety. Volvo invented the seatbelt. Believed in safety so much, they gave the patent away so other car companies could use it. And it's taken us 50 years to figure out how to use a seatbelt. And why do we use a seatbelt? Because of the annoying ding. Not because it's legal, not because we'll get fined, not because we'll lose our license, because it won't stop dinging. Seatbelt. However, the core value of Volvo goes from the engineer on the ground floor right the way up to the guy who's selling the cars. They know it's safety first. Every single person in that company knows it's safety first. If an engineer on a Volvo design floor has an engine in front of him, and he has three options. One is to make the engine faster, the second is to make it greener, and the third is to make it safer. It's safer. He doesn't talk to a line manager. He doesn't talk to the guy in marketing and says, let's sell a faster car. It's safer. And what that means from a brand perspective is that if Volvo open up hotels tomorrow in Europe, I know that they will be high-tech, they will be family-friendly, and they'll be the safest hotels ever built. That's brand. Your values should transfer over to whatever it is you do. It's not about your output. So when we talk about brand and we talk about your branding and your narrative, your values is where we start. So we look at that and we talk to you and kind of go, right, what do people need to understand from everything you talk about from the start? Does that make sense to everyone? A few of you still awake. Excellent. Thank you.
So we've touched a bit on the brand versus branding. But if we come back to content creation in itself, and there's so many forms of content creation, you've got podcasts, you've got photography, you've got 1,000,001 different types of content creation. Why should someone, for example, look at photography? Like what would be the benefit for getting professional headshots, for example?
Has anyone here ever been catfished? Anyone been catfished ever?
Check your apps.
No one's actually admitting to that, which is fine. That says either you were the catfish. No, I'm kidding. Of course you weren't. The days of looking like with your arms folded and posing sideways that you're auditioning for the fucking Apprentice are gone. We want to know who you are. We want to see that person, and then when we meet them in real life, because we're back peopling, we want to go, oh yeah, that's the person from the thing. That's who it is. It needs to be authentic. It needs to feel real. But you need to be, if you're a founder, you are your brand right now. How you stand, how you talk, how you present yourself, and how you connect with people in the real world, that's your brand. The passion and the enthusiasm you talk about, what you do is your brand. So that needs to be evident. And really good photography that captures you as we get to know you and we get to understand how your body moves, how you stand, how you smile. Okay, you don't smile, that's fine. How the rest of you smile. Oh, there it is, look at your beautiful smile. Look at you, handsome devil. The point is that we will do all of that to make sure that we capture the best of you, so when someone meets you for the first time, they go, oh, this makes sense. This is who I saw online. Did that answer that?
That answers it very well, absolutely. And we touched a bit on podcasting itself, and you kind of mentioned a bit about, how, I suppose, having someone's voice in your ear and in your head, how can startups, and even more so, more established companies, leverage podcasting and bringing that into their business, and what would that do for their business?
Why would anyone who's got a business and wants to talk about it, why would they do a podcast, does anyone know? Who wants to hear you talk about your business? So good you're all here. To educate them about your business, yeah? That's good, to be perceived as an expert. So maybe it's your journey to how you became a founder. Okay, I quite like that. Any other reason? I will start picking on people. I am remarkably loud. Entertainment's great. I like that. Anyone else? Why else? I'm up. What? To market. To let people know you exist is good. Yes. To trust. To let people know you're authentic. Why else should you do a podcast? Sorry? Create content for the sake of it. How many of us have panicked and gone, I haven't tweeted in days. They'll think I'm dead. I better post on LinkedIn to show I'm professional. Remind people I still need money. Please invest in my business. Why else? Why else do a podcast? So, hello? Say, I'm going to bring you up. Come here. Come on. Can anyone else hear? So, to show the face of your brand or the voice of your brand. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Podcasting's fine. I know everything's visual these days. The thing about podcasting is that Aer Lingus stole this from Qantas. I will get to my point. There is a story. Aer Lingus stole it from Qantas. Ryanair sell you a seat. That's their primary goal. They go, how would you like to go to Amsterdam for £4? And you go, yeah, I know you're shit, but yeah, fine. Here's my £4. And then £100 in taxes, right? Aer Lingus talk to you about, have you been to Bali? Have you eaten in Bali? Have you met the people of Bali? Have you been to Indonesia? When was the last time you flew to the south of France and drank really good wine for a euro? When was the last time you experienced something new? And you sell the seat to yourself because it doesn't matter how much it costs, suddenly you want to be in the south of France. With a really good podcast, what you're doing is you're not selling your business, you're selling the idea of spending time with you. And the fact that your business does something is great, but it's about, like you said, educating and entertaining and giving you a voice and letting people know that you exist, but also in a very, very intimate and authentic way. Does that make sense? Think about the podcast that you like. It almost feels like you're listening to someone else's conversation and enjoying it, like eavesdropping in a pub or something like that, or a coffee shop for those of you who don't drink anymore. I don't want to know you. It's fine. I'm kidding. Sort of. Does that make sense? Fabulous. Now, Bernard, because Bernard's been asking all the questions. Bernard, why should anyone do a video blog?
Yeah, I think you very much touched on it earlier. When you look at your phone and you're going through your socials, what's the first thing you're looking at? It's all video content. And video is something that's going to stop you in your tracks. You're going to engage. But more importantly, if you look at YouTube, it's the second largest search engine other than Google. So video is really going to help your rankings when it comes to finding a little bit more about your business. More importantly, it's going to answer the question to the algorithm gods, which is to put your brand in front of more people. So video content and leveraging that is really important and should always be within the strategy for your content creation goals.
What's fascinating there is he said YouTube. Didn't say Instagram, didn't say TikTok, didn't say anything like that. If you are going to talk about your business and you're going to, in a fun, in an entertaining way, but it's going to be your face or maybe you're with your business partner or maybe a conversation with somebody else, YouTube is genuinely one of the best places to be. Has anyone here been sent a WhatsApp of a video that was longer than 30 seconds? Have you tapped on it just to see how long it is and gone, I don't have time for this shit? Or you've been on Instagram and it's like, oh, it's a minute, I'm not wasting that. But how many of us have gone to YouTube to watch someone cook a steak for 30 minutes because you didn't know how? Or how to change your oil? Or how to actually figure out IKEA furniture? We go there on purpose if we want to learn something. And if you can find a YouTube audience, they are niche. They will go there because you're there. They're looking for you already, constantly. They're not going to Instagram. They're not going to TikTok. They're not just scrolling through to see if they can get something funny or interesting or disastrous. They're going there to educate themselves. And if you're going to put together a blog that talks about the passion you have for building your business or the struggle you had to get here or how you dealt with investors or how you pitched or why you're amazing, YouTube's your friend. And it takes time to build an audience and all these kind of things. And that's where you use your socials to go, have you seen what we do here? Would you like to learn more about how to fix your car even though you're 40-something? You should probably know better. I'm not talking about me personally. I am talking about me personally, it's fine. But YouTube's the king. Does that make sense, everyone? A few nodding heads. Glad some of you are still awake. Fabulous.
Okay, I've got some questions from the audience here. I'm conscious of time, so we'll kick on to some. So starting with the first one, I'll actually answer myself. Do we work with startups and agencies on content creation? Absolutely. We focus very much on startups and scale-ups. We work also with agencies as well. We've got two different business models that would would, I suppose, how we interact with each side, whether it's an agency or working directly with a company. So whoever put that question in, more than happy to talk to you about it after in literally 3 minutes. More than happy to talk to you about that in more detail and how we could work with you. Paul, another really interesting question here is podcasting a trend that companies are milking at the moment, or do you think it's a medium to stay?
Yes and yes. It is a trend. Absolutely it is. But there's loads of people doing it wrong. So you can be part of that trend and do it absolutely brilliantly. I mean, if you look at Netflix, there's an awful lot of bad movies out there. But there's also some amazing content. I have literally just started watching The Queen's Gambit because I waited for the hype to be over. My God, it's amazing. It's amazing content. But then there's so much dreadful stuff being pumped out. So it's about filtering that, but that's where your secondary socials and your website comes into play to say, here, come find us. Put the money behind you, put your marketing money behind your socials to focus people in on your YouTube or your podcasting.
Nice. Okay, probably a nice tee-up question to that as well then is physical branding important to grow your business?
Yes, physical branding is important to grow your business. How people see you and look and feel. Let me put it this way. Let's use the classic example. When you see the big golden M, what do you think? Chips. What else do you think?
Happiness.
A treat. Happiness. They're going to take care of me for 15 minutes. I don't have to worry about what's in the freezer. Kid A wants nuggets, kid B wants burger. They can have both. I'm going to have the not-so-shit coffee these days. And everyone's happy for 15 minutes. But you are emotionally connected to it. Somebody sees your physical brand, they should connect to you emotionally and understand who you are behind it. It should tell your story. But physically, yes, you need to be visible. Digitally, 100%, but physically, yes.
Nice. I see we're just out of time, so one final question. There's one or two other questions here. So again, whoever's put these questions in, more than happy to speak to you afterwards. Can I get a free consultation with the Founder Factory?
Yes. So we have got 15 spaces over the next 2 weeks on Mount Street. Rebecca is taking note of anyone who'd like to come in and meet us for an hour. We will go through what we do. We will talk to you about who you are, and we will see if we can help. But it won't cost you a red cent except to pop down to Mount Street. And there's actually an abundance of parking as well, which is nice. It's expensive, but there's loads of parking.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. And thanks, everybody, for your time and attention. And look forward to speaking with you shortly. Cheers.